Helps if I unmute the microphone, but yes, we are live. How's it going, everyone?
Everybody knows what it means when a show starts with that.
Yeah. No Fern this week. We found out we had no Fern at the last minute. Uh, is got some family issues he's taking care of. Uh, so don't know how many weeks that's going to eat him, but it sounded like he's got some pretty serious stuff going on. So pray for him, and we will hopefully have a Fern back soon because I don't know what I'm doing with myself when Fern isn't here. So in the meantime, welcome to a Fernless episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts are still.
And Volatile, and we're here to bring latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. Or, well, I mean, it's still one of those weeks where there's not really a great deal to talk about as far as news is concerned. I haven't seen anything that I would classify as big. Though there's a certain amount of corporate level stuff going on, and mostly what people have been talking about last couple of days has been Diablo 4, which my interest is extremely cool on. But yeah, we'll do our best to give you a show anyway, although it's going to be most likely a clown fiesta, as it always is every time we try and do a show without Fern.
Yep.
But if you'd like to involve the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in Discord, and you can get to our Discord server by clicking on the link that we provided in the show description underneath the show archive on YouTube.
Yes, indeed. So, for this show, we are back in front of the new Deep Dungeon, and we'll be doing that and using that to help us fill time. And talking about the weeks we do have, and the bit that I've discovered about the new Deep Dungeon, because most of my active time has gone into that, I can talk about my passive activity I've done, which is relic weapon grinding for Realm Reborn. The rest of my week is eaten by work. So I've not had much juice this week to really sit down and do anything that requires attention.
Yeah, I suppose we're like this Sunday is what we call which one is it? Laetare Sunday or Gaudete Sunday? Laetare Sunday, I think. There's one that's 3 weeks into Lent and one is 3 weeks into Advent. I can't remember which one is which, but that means that we're halfway through Lent, which means it's getting close to the run up to Easter. So everybody who wants work done before the Easter break is going to start champing at the bit for our attention.
Yeah. Right. Let's go ahead and drop us in the dungeon. So, in here, I'm playing Mechanist. Specifically, I'm playing Mechanist because it has a ranged interrupt, which is very handy in deep dungeons.
Wow, this is an extremely unga-bunga looking weapon.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Well, it's full of character.
I kind of like the Mechanist gun. It's not shotgun, but it's... that take it back. The more I look at it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, I'm not particularly. I think it's a little bit over-designed, you know.
Yeah, it looked good from zoomed out, and then I zoomed in on it just now.
I'm always taken aback when we come in here and the first thing we try and kill with when we pull the first floor doesn't die when we hit it twice.
Yeah.
Hard to get used to.
So yeah. I've done a goodly bit of Deep Dungeon. I'll be going out of my way during this run unless we're just way far away from a room that we haven't checked to explore as much as I can to get Vaul caught up in Aetherpool. As you can see, I'm at 89, 88. I was very, very fortunate 130 to 40 run that I did, and got a ton of armor flares to catch up to the weapon flares that you saw me get last week. So I am nearly maxed on Aetherpool again, which is nice, and I should be Aetherpool synced for the majority of this this bit anyway, so that'll be very handy. I also have potions now.
Pardon?
I also have potions now.
Oh, right, yes. So that you can save us from ourselves.
So.
Yes, I'm playing a tank, technically, but I don't have a clue how to play Dark Knight. It's my least played tank by quite a margin. So, I'm sort of just pressing buttons.
So, yeah. I have not played much max level Mechanist outside of quite a bit of practice in St. Marcain's Arboreum Hard, of all stupid things. For those that remember when I was building my house, if you looked inside, you'll notice the first floor has a whole bunch of greenery and big ivy-covered walls. Those are called verdant partitions, and they only drop in St. Morcain's Arboreum Hard and from the Kupo of Fortune at the Sky Builders area in the Firmament. So, and they are not a good drop rate at all. So, if it just happened to turn out that Mechanist was the fastest class I could find or could play to get through that place in a timely manner, and could do it in about 8 minutes. So, so yeah, that's for all of my turning my experience bar back on.
Incidentally, what's the price of Phoenix Down doing lately?
It's back to normal.
Oh, good. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Because I just remembered I forgot to reset my IP tunnel, so I'm running on a lot of lag in here. And when I make a mistake, I will die.
After the floor set, I'll remind you to go turn it on, and you can disconnect and turn that on.
Right.
Because this place is not forgiving with its mechanics, as we've demonstrated a few times.
Yeah. IP tunnel only makes a very slight difference, but it is the difference between life and death if you're on a long ping like I am.
Yeah. So, yep. We'll be going through the deep dungeon again. You can see how I'm taking it much more casually now, because I know what the mobs do, and I am much more comfortable in my damage, where I can actually kill stuff now. So yeah. So, I guess we could start with our weeks. You started yours already, so you can continue on with yours.
Did I? Okay, so my week has been exceedingly busy. This week at work was internal audit week, which is... Internal audit week is... Did I just find a coffer? The internal audit week is not as bad as regular audits, because that's the consequences are not on the scale of the national, as it were. But my boss describes auditors as medics that show up after the battle to bayonet the wounded. And I can't help but agree with him on that. But yeah, what it basically resulted in was me accomplishing basically nothing all week because I was dealing with audit crap, and it resulted in me being handed a laundry list of nasty problems that need solving urgently. Especially considering there's about a month until the real deal full-scale national audit from the government. But if nothing else, at least that means that I've got a list now. I've got a list of things that need doing, so I can make a plan and start making some progress instead of constantly chasing my tail, which is more or less what I've been doing until now. But yeah, so it was not an enjoyable experience, and I did a lot of late nights, much more than normal toward the back end of the week, because so little got done during the front end of the week while we were being audited. But and I found a lot of things that from a certain point of view, I rather would not have found out, but it's better to find out now while I've still got time to fix it, such as that the previous manager didn't do media validation on like the last several months worth of media, which is really, really, really bad if the auditor decides to look at it. But all I can really do going forward is try and correct all of these things, because I mean, the process for getting your laboratory audited is that the government will send, well, the government has a body called IANS, which is sort of our laboratory accreditation agency. What?
Let's not pull that thing.
What?
A dread beast stalks this
floor.
floor.
A dread beast stalks this floor. But we've got no commanders and no items.
Yeah, I know. We can sneak around it. It's site aggro. We just gotta be very, very careful. It's
not really how I wanted to start this off. But think of the juicy, juicy buff that we would get.
That one will literally one-shot you, and there'll be jack all I can do about it. I mean, you're free to pull it. I will stay out of combat, and you will see what happens.
What does it do?
It has a infinite range tank buster that it fires immediately after its first auto attack.
So you're supposed to already have the command insta-jib it.
Or you're supposed to be max.
Okay, let's try and get past this one at a time.
Yeah, I'll pull stuff out of the room up here, and then we can kill it to make it clear, and we'll sneak around it. Because it's also in the exit room of all stupid things.
This could go very poorly. We're only on floor 3.
Yeah, it thankfully all dread beasts aggro by sight, so we don't have to worry about that. There you go.
But yeah, so basically what happens is that the government accreditation body, IANS, will send a team of people, including some like paperwork-focused auditors and at least one technical expert. To some extent, we get to choose who that technical expert will be, and I threw my preference behind a guy that I've met before who's audited us in the past, and who I think is pretty solid. And what's more, he's extremely knowledgeable, so you can get benefit from him simply by picking his brain for information, which will help you in future audits. And furthermore, he's more of my sort of disposition in the sense that he doesn't look at the paperwork first. He's much more interested in asking people questions about the technical situations they encounter.
First.
So there are some auditors who will just go through the paperwork until they find something that looks wrong, and then they will grab on that thread and yank. Whereas the guy that we're getting is more, his disposition is more in like, maybe we should just wait for him to turn away and leave.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
The guy that we're getting in is more of the, well, he will find a technician that's doing something and ask about what they're doing and why, and what they would do if X, Y, and Z. So it's much easier to get tripped over by him, but the problems sort of manifest in a natural way because they're about things people don't know, and you need to know that anyway. Whereas oftentimes an auditor that starts with the paperwork will find some problem, but nobody can figure out how exactly it went wrong or whatever because it happened so long ago, and you can't solve the problem. Because what happens is that at the end of the audit they give you a report which will have corrective actions and recommendations. Corrective actions are mandatory to be solved, and the problem is it's very hard to solve a problem that you can't figure out what actually happened originally. And auditors that start with the paperwork tend to find problems that people can't close the corrective action because they can't work out whatever happened to solve the problem.
I see.
So, yeah. The other thing to remember about auditors is that they are paid, the technical experts are paid both by the day that they are on site, and quite a hefty amount. I think that they get paid something like $1,500 per day or something. And they also get paid for all the time they spend writing the report. So the longer the report, like the more corrective actions you get, the longer the report, the more it costs the lab. So you kind of want to avoid getting too many corrective actions if possible, because it can become very expensive very quickly. But yeah, so it's it's a pain in the butt, but it's good preparatory work and necessary preparatory work, because frankly I can't find all the problems that the previous management caused by myself, because there were too many. I needed the extra eyes on the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a huge headache, but a needful headache that will hopefully pay off in the long term.
So
That's how I want to look at it.
That raises an interesting question of something you've noticed. I am always ready to put a second set of eyes, even a pair of opossum eyes, on a job if it's a little bit, if it's not something just totally simple, just to have a second pair of eyes on it. But there are a lot of people, especially kids these days in the workforce, that seem to need a second pair of eyes for literally everything, and I don't want to come off as them, as like them. Do you have a similar mindset to that?
Well, I've certainly noticed that behavior. Like there are certain people that we've had as technicians who will basically stop dead and not progress their work unless there's somebody around to supervise. Because if they did something on their own, then they would have to cop the blame. They'd have to cop the blame if the decision was poor. But myself, I'm not really that concerned because I can't afford to be. I can't afford to be concerned about asking for help right now because I've taken on a job that I received no training for. Like I am the Peter principal live in action at this point. I've been promoted beyond the region of my competence because I'm not an administrator. The saving grace is that basically every lab manager is promoted beyond their arena of competence because there are basically two types of lab managers. There are scientists with no admin experience and there are administrators with no scientific experience that become lab managers. You can teach admin to a scientist, but you can't teach science to an administrator usually because the amount of background that they need is too great. Whereas administration is just a series of tasks that are required to keep things running. So I I constantly harass everybody for instructions and advice at the sister labs around the place because I don't know what I don't know. So I need to do what I'm doing with somebody who does know things watching so that I can figure out where the mistakes are. I don't have the room to be picky about how I look to other people when I ask idiotic questions because the consequences for not asking those questions are really high.
I see.
Because I have to serve as the emblem of all knowledge for the laboratory. I can't afford for there to be anything missing. But yeah. So it was a long and not especially pleasant week, but it's over now, and I've got about a month to prep for the audit, and I've got some big tasks ahead of me. But most of the major problems are starting to come out in the wash, so it's just a matter of getting the training. And I'm cajoling the National Quality Department to send various people down to do training in that because we don't have anybody who knows how to calibrate a lot of things, or we have very few people who know the calibration methods and so on. So we need to get people to come down and train in that because I can't do it. I can't train everybody. I don't have the time. I can barely keep the place running as it is. And I've got to do lots of administrative things like stock taking, ordering consumables, and that sort of thing, making sure all the certificates of authenticity for all of or analysis are all checked off for everything. Um, there's a lot of paperwork involved, so I can't do everything. It's bad enough that I have to spend as much time at the bench as I do. But yeah, that's just the way it be. So more late nights at work for me, but they, as of this week, they have started to very slowly come under control. Like rather than leaving at 9 o'clock every day, I'm leaving at sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock every day now because I'm not backlogged on so many things. Before it was a matter of that there was always stuff happening that was set in motion by previous management, and I didn't know that it was happening, so it would catch up with me, and I didn't have any way of knowing it was going to happen. So that most of that stuff is starting to disappear now. Though there are still some pretty hefty problems, like suppliers not delivering things. The hardest thing that I've had trouble getting hold of for some ridiculous reason is bleach. Like, there's an order of bleach that I placed in, like, normal bleach. This is not laboratory grade bleach. This is normal floor cleaning bleach, like laundry bleach or whatever. I placed an order for some back in January, and it wasn't delivered. But the supplier has delivered all the orders of bleach since then, and I can't get them to deliver the one that we paid for in January.
Ah, that is odd.
So I don't know what the hell they're playing at. It doesn't make any sense, but you know, suppliers are like that.
Oh,
Unfortunately, the purchasing person has also resigned, so I can't get them to chase it for me.
yeah, I know all about supply problems right now. I have some very, very expensive pumps for Savannah River on order. Some very, very big, and many of them. And it's a stupid cable uh, to connect the motor to something inside of it that the factory just ain't got. And it's a super cheapo common part, but it just cannot be found.
Yeah. In addition to that, though, in New Zealand, you have another problem. Like, I'm trying to find some laboratory grade accredited conductivity standards for for calibrating our conductivity meter, and it's proving to be quite the pain in the backside because while I can find the standards that I want, a lot of them are located in like the US or Australia, and it takes a very long time to get them in, and I need them like last week, sort of thing. So it's a matter of finding somebody who's got some kind of stock in the country or at a port city in Australia. Sort of. Those are basically the only options that I've got to get things in a timely fashion. So, yeah, it's proving to be a bit of a nuisance getting things in. But, yeah, I haven't played much in the way of Vidya this week past because I keep getting home so late. I didn't do all that much of the last FGO event, and I'm a bit doubtful of my ability to get much done in this FGO event that's currently going either, because it is a tower climb event, and tower climb events don't cost very much AP, so you can play through the event as long as you want. Like, if you had the time, you could do the whole event in one sitting, more or less. Probably the challenge quest is time gated, but a lot of other things are not time gated in this type of event. The problem is that while you can play as much as you want because each level is 1 AP or something like that, oh, come on! I am definitely not standing in that circle.
Well, the good
Well, on
news
my
is
screen, I'm not.
good news is we're clearing to the return thing. I'll get you up in a sec. Oh, well, yeah, I'll just use
The yeah, where was I before I got myself killed?
tower
Oh, right.
thing.
The tower climb event is like there's like 200 floors or something. Each floor is a level, and they all cost 1 AP. And you can use a servant. Any given servant can be used like once every 6 hours, sort of thing. So you've got to use your whole roster. The problem is it's just incredibly time consuming as events go. There's not farming to do in the conventional sense, but
No.
there's not timing to do in the conventional sense, but there's not farming to do in the conventional sense, but there's not really there's not really anything you can do about the sheer amount of time that is demanded of you. It's just ridiculously time consuming. It's not really what I would think of as a great game mode for a mobile game. It's not really that suitable. It's sort of like I don't know what to liken it to. It's sort of like Tower of Luna if Tower
That's
of
a
Luna
lot of
was like,
behemoths.
oh my goodness. Don't want to know what was going on in there. It's sort of like Tower of Luna if just like sitting and going through Tower of Luna like from top to bottom in 2 weeks was the primary game mode type
Uh-huh.
of thing.
That sounds awful.
Except you also can't use the same team more than once in 6 hours.
Let's see. Get your AoE ready. I got an idea.
My AoE's on cooldown though. Why? Stand in the circle, damn it. Oh boy, did he.
Yeah. This was the only reasonable way to clear this room in a decent time frame.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just gotta do that when there's 20 behemoths in a room.
Why? Why is this happening?
Well, on the plus side, we still need EXP. So this one's more manageable. It's not 20 behemoths or whatever. So yeah. Yeah. Tower Luna.
It's a,
I'm very glad I started near, or I got to Tower Luna doable levels at a relatively far time ago point in my Pinecone career, because and we got a respawn behemoth. How about that? Man, this room doesn't like us very much.
it wants us to stay here forever and ever and ever. My goodness.
I got drill. Hang on. Okay, we're finally free.
Right. Really feeling the not being a warrior right now.
Yep. So yeah. And something else respawned in that room as we were leaving.
Yeah, let's not go back in there. Let's just leave.
All that for a silver chest that probably didn't even give you an ethical level.
Yeah, this story is pretty silly. It's not really anything remarkable about it. It's just the storyline to introduce Galatea, the berserker, the statue created by King Pygmalion of Cyprus, which is really, honestly, kind of a bit of a cringe myth, because it's basically he crafted his waifu and the gods brought it to life.
Yeah. He owned a rock, or former rock.
But yeah, poor Galatea was a really competitive berserker servant on launch for a loopable single target arts berserker, and was immediately power creeped by Vlad's next strengthening. So has basically fallen into irrelevance in the Japanese server.
Oh.
Poor
Yeah.
girl. But she's the one with the weird pants.
Oh,
if you
that's
recall.
yeah. I vaguely remember her pictures of her.
Yeah, she wears a ridiculously stripperific outfit initially, and then pants. The legendary pants. But yeah. I don't know how much of this event I'm going to get done, because it's a one that leans purely on time, which is the commodity I have the least of. Like with most events, I can at least sort of like, oh well, I'll clear the story part, and then I'll do as much farming as I have free time for, and then I'll be satisfied with that. But in this case, there's no farming. You just need to sit down, grit your teeth, and go through 200 floors worth of event clearing, and there's like missable items that aren't farmable right the way up to the top. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating. Not really what I wanted to see. They don't do these events all that often. There's like one per year tops, sometimes less than that. So it's not, I don't begrudge its existence. I just wish it wasn't there right now when I've got no time to do it. Because I do appreciate that it's a non-farming based event that you can more or less take your time through, but it's kind of a bit rough. I almost don't even need to worry about the cooldown on my but economizing the cooldown on my servants, because I'm going to run out of free time to play before it's relevant to wait for one to come off cooldown. But it is kind of interesting getting to use your whole roster, so you end up using a lot of odd servants that you wouldn't normally. Though if you're one of those people who happens to have a super scope, more or less your solution to a lot of flaws will just be to slap the super scope on the best appropriate AoE that you've got and then let rip. So I don't have one of those though, so I don't have to worry about that type of disease making it more banal. I actually have to think about who will actually be able to stand up long enough amongst my servants who are all like 2-star.
Do you how many scopes do you have now?
I think I've got 3, something like that. Every time they add another 5-star CE to the pool, it gets less likely that you're going to be able to get one. So, and then they add after a while they'll add disappointment scope.
Oh yeah,
to the game.
The one that gives health instead of attack damage.
Yeah. Why did they do that? It's like they were mocking us. And you get a lot of people who are playing apologist for it and saying, "Oh no, technically it just doubles your chance that you'll be able to give something that has 80% pre NP chance." Yes, but it's worse.
And people already have copies of the original scope that they're trying to
Yeah,
MLB.
it's just it's so frustrating. I don't know why they make decisions like that. The decisions made by the development team for FGO are so consistently nonsensical. Like they, it's not like they're incapable of making good decisions, but it seems like when they do make good decisions, it's almost by accident. But yeah, that is the way it be. And FF, I haven't had any time to really play anything during the week, except I did an alliance raid last week, which I pulled Puppet's Bunker, and that could have gone significantly better. I spent most of the time healing. Man, we came in here to get me Ether Pool, but I haven't gotten a single level up yet.
Oh yeah, we're still in the first 10 floors.
I didn't realize that the curve was that steep. Like,
Oh yeah, for some reason all the Aether Pool curve seems to be in the first 40 floors. Like I was barely synced at Tiamat when I was at Aether Pool 70 something. Like
if
73
it's
or
like
something.
that, then why won't they give me some freaking why won't they give me some freaking Ether Pool? Wrong button. Can't use my ability. There we go.
Thankfully, because the curve is so steep, even in the 80s, you can still get Aether Pool from the floors 20 to 30 fairly easily. No need to venture into the super floors.
Yeah, I haven't done much in FF. Most of my time has been squandered doing things that are not particularly profitable. In terms of gaming, mainly sleep. To be honest, it's been a case of more or less get home and go to bed. I'm really hoping that'll come to an end, and it does seem to be drifting towards the end. But I don't want to be I'm very like overly conscious of trying to not be like the previous manager. The previous manager would like waltz out at 4:30 or whatever, and everybody else would still be working for another 3 or 4 hours after he was gone. And let's just say it didn't make him the most popular guy. I mean, it's not the manager's duty to stay there until everybody else is gone. That's not the case. However, you also don't want to feel like a heel walking out because you can get away with it because you're in charge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to push my luck too much, and I do have very, very many things to do. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I can do from home as well. But I've also seen managers screw themselves by becoming that manager who never bothers to come in because he says he's always working from home.
Yeah, this has been a plague I've heard reported ever since the unknown disease of unknown origin.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that guy. Well, maybe there are a lot of people who do want to be that guy, I guess, but I don't approve of it. So, yeah. Anyway, I haven't done very much.
Shoot.
That's basically the... Oh my goodness. Is this thing killable for us?
No.
No?
No. We'll have to remove the water sprites and then be very careful around the rest of the room.
Right.
So I'm going to pull both of them. Then just let me deal with the inside of the room. Stop any patrols from coming up behind me to eat me. So yeah. Yeah, I can at least relate to the part of your work that comes with inheriting a company that was thoroughly and completely busted by other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh!
Okay. Got the horde.
Get there.
Just screw that up.
Fantastic.
Screw that up, chest.
But yeah, I did watch a stream by Fauna that was incredibly legendary, and I enjoyed a huge amount. Which was her Euro Truck stream. Have you watched that by any chance?
No, I haven't.
It was a hardly planned stream that she did. She basically went down the list and picked a game at random that she thought sounded comfy. The thing to remember about Fauna is that she doesn't know how to drive a car in real life. So she's not really much better at driving cars in video games. But on top of that, she was also not much good at. She's also trying to drive a vehicle which is designed to be top heavy because it's a truck, and the physics in Euro Truck games is not necessarily great. They tend to be a little bit ragdolly.
Yeah, and they seem to really emphasize the truck's weight too much.
Yeah, and so it was incredibly entertaining watching her bumble about trying to drive the truck. And like, I can't back a trailer, and I do have a certain amount of experience driving a car, although I'm an awful driver, relatively speaking. But yeah, it was interesting to watch. But the thing which really made it like legendarily funny was that she said, "Well, I can't use the in-game radio in the truck because all of that music will get the stream struck. We'll get a copyright strike because it's all licensed music."
Mm-hmm.
So she decided, "Oh, I'll use the YouTube royalty-free sound library to provide music." So she said that she was going to do that, and then she set it to custom to country. So the idea was that she could do like the trucker stereotype, right? Listening to country music and driving the truck along, right?
Okay.
As it turned out, YouTube has a different definition of country, and a lot of odd music that the people listening couldn't really identify came out, but it was just like, well, this is kind of weird. But what really made it hilarious is that there was this the music was more or less in the background for most of the time, and then when she had an absolute clown show of trying to do something and made a big mess of handling the truck, all of a sudden Hava Nagila started playing.
I see.
If you know that song.
Can't recall it in memory, but it sounds
Hava
familiar.
Nagila, it's in a lot of Seth videos. It's a Jewish folk song. Probably the most famous Jewish folk song on earth. Like the Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila. You know that one?
Yeah, I know it now. When you said Seth
so
video,
that just sort of it came on right at the most comic moment. And this is the entire chat just starts spamming "Oy vey" and hey people.
Oh dear, you can strong.
It was very funny, but the comedy continued later on in the stream where she was driving along in a totally normal fashion. It looked like, because the stream had been going for some time by this point, it looked like she finally gotten a handle on it. She took a corner just very slightly too tightly, and the physics engine just kind of wigged out a bit, and she ended up. She was talking immediately beforehand because she was under control, so she was doing your usual talk to the stream watchers type of thing that streamers do, and she had changed the channel on the royalty free music, and it was currently going through the earlier parts of Beethoven's Ninth, and then she botched up her steering just very slightly, and the physics engine sort of magnified it out of control, and she ended up with her truck's cab literally face planted down onto the road with the truck sticking up behind her in the most ridiculous fashion. And the thing which really made this is it happened exactly as sort of Ode to Joy hit its first major crescendo. So the music is being super dramatic in the background, and the visuals are absolutely ridiculous. And at this point, she started laughing so hard she couldn't breathe, and she actually ended the stream because she couldn't focus. It was quite entertaining. She said she could not possibly have executed this deliberately if she had tried to set it up. The whole thing was a comedy of errors, and I don't think I've ever enjoyed such a bland game stream so much because the comedy just sort of happened on its own.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? I can't say I've ever watched many full streams ever, but I especially have not watched them about those type of games.
Well, I don't go out of my way to watch them. It's just like for me, it's the same principle as people who turn on the TV or the radio for background noise when they're doing something else. Like they're not paying full attention. But eventually, I started paying attention because the things that were happening on screen were so absurd.
Let's see. Yeah, I have not kept up with the Hololive Girls at all. Leave that dragon. He
I
can
think Fern is down bad with it, but
hopefully he doesn't start simping.
I don't think he'll start simping. I think he's got enough. I think he's down to earth enough for that. Most Australians are. But yeah, I do enjoy watching them from time to time. I don't actually spend a lot of time doing it. I'm mostly watching religious content on YouTube, but occasionally I don't. I just want to switch off, and so that's what those streams are for. But yeah, I found it amusing, so I wanted to comment on it, seeing I don't really have a week to talk about in the conventional sense. What is that going to do to me?
Slow you.
I have a disease.
It makes you slow and puts a dot on you.
Well, yeah, I haven't started watching any new anime or anything. I just don't really have the time. I didn't even watch. Watched hardly any last night. Normally, I would watch a bunch, but I didn't because I got home from work too late, and I needed to get up at the crack of dawn to go to church in the morning. Normally, I go to the vigil mass, which is the evening mass, which counts for the next day. But because was at work so late, I couldn't yesterday, so I had to get up at the crack of dawn. Because if you don't, like the um the morning mass, the first morning mass starts at 8 a.m., but the chapel is usually filling up by 7:30, so you've got to get in there pretty damn early if you want to be able to get a seat. I don't like kneeling on concrete. So yeah, well, the where I go to church is currently in that sort of situation where it's standing room only after a certain time. So yeah. Anyway, I don't really have anything else to talk about. I've already stretched it as much as humanly possible, and then a bit.
All right. Got extra hits here because
How does this work again?
up sprint. I screwed that up.
I didn't know where I put sprint, and I overran into the other. I was moving my buttons around.
Yeah, I messed that up. I went to the wrong side. Got them green potions you've been picking up in here. Use
Yeah, but I
those.
forgot to put them on my bar. I've only got the blue ones.
So yeah. Well, yeah, that's it for your week. Since we're playing Final Fantasy, I guess we can transition into mine and get to the Final Fantasy stuff. Why did I try to Peloton us? Like that's going to make us go faster into this corner? Okay, this side. It's a 3 side.
No, I'm not going to make it on time.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah, but I'm going to die because I can't
Tricked me.
fucking... No, it's too late. I was already dead by the time I heard you say shirk to me. And it wouldn't work anyway, I don't think. Because it doesn't dump enough aggro.
Okay,
I'm not actually sure how the hell you're supposed to heal yourself as a Dark Knight. They're supposed to have some sustain, aren't they?
Part 3 your combo, Abyssal Drain are all you got for self-healing. And popping Living Dead, so you get that mega self-heal buff now.
Yeah, I didn't do that because it's still in my brain. It's still a don't press this button. Because
Okay.
it used to be basically impossible to recover from it unless you had like 2 healers focus firing you with heals.
Yeah. Potion.
Well, while I'm dead, potions.
Where's Fern when you need him to go? Hey, use a Phoenix down in combat.
Yeah, I don't know why he still makes that mistake every time somebody dies. He's also, I'll use a Phoenix down.
That is for out of combat only. The amount of times combat is going on and you can use a Phoenix down is very small.
Yeah,
I'm with you, people. I'm just
I kind of want to spend more time playing FF, but I'm making very slow progress with all of my little projects. Since I am so tired when I get home, I have actually been doing as my only evening gaming has basically been doing the Inwalker hunts. So I've got like 3,100 sacks of nuts now because that's about the only thing I've got time for that my brain has the capacity to do.
almost enough for one of the mounts.
I've already got them out.
Both of them?
I didn't know there was a second one. I thought there's only one.
There's one that you can buy from the vendor at the Crystarium, and one the vendor in Old Charlie has totally different stuff.
Oh right, yeah, I've got both of those in.
Okay, so
Right,
let's
I
pop
need
out so you
to-
can turn your IP tunnel on.
Yep. Okay.
Crack these bronze man sacks.
They're not bronze. They're bronze tinged.
Man's tinged.
Oh man, I've got a 20-second logout timer. How could you do this to me?
Junk.
What were they? Sparklers?
Fireworks, Demi Materia 1, and some Materia 9. And Materia 9 has got to be dirt cheap on the auction house right now. The supply's got to be way higher than the number of people pentamelting.
I think it's already pretty high because generally speaking, the majority of the player base gets them, but the majority of the player base simply doesn't pentameld.
Yeah, that's for
Because
week
it's
one
only
of
those.
Savage Progression.
Because it's only those people who buy crafted gear who pentameld.
Yeah, and even the people that buy the crafted gear, you're usually not seeing them pentameld but one class, and that one class will only use the pentamelded gear really on the first week of Savage Progression.
Yeah. It's very much one of those games where people in a certain tier of play for the first couple of weeks and then they stop. And the last major piece of content was an ultimate. So most of the people who were doing that have either cleared it or have undergone a guild implosion at this point.
Yeah, and even then, I think the Savage pieces might be better than pentamelding pieces now. It's totally reasonable from the time break between the last Savage release and that Ultimate to have gotten multiple classes fully geared up to eye level 630 or whatever the current Savage tier is. It's 10 higher or 15
error
higher.
has occurred. That doesn't bode well. I haven't seen that error box before.
Probably have you turned your IP tunnel on while you've been in the game like that?
No, I didn't turn it on while I was in the game. That's the thing.
No.
Let's try that again.
Final Fantasy has been acting weird, both with and without the cheater things. Even when they're disabled on a totally separate computer, it's still been acting a little funny. I'm not sure why. I've been getting like weird graphical hitches, and the game won't close properly anymore.
Please, no more problems. No more problems. Just stop.
So yeah, I guess that's a good segue into my week there. My week at work was very, very busy. First off, a bunch of projects started to break. A bunch of people want quotes on really big jobs that are just starting up. I've just had stuff to do the whole time I've been there. Either Thursday or Friday, I forget, was particularly bad with me going nonstop all day long. And just having to get crap out, and I would come home most days really tired. Tuesday was okay. I came home, did a bunch of deep dungeons on Tuesday, and was oh no, Wednesday, and it was either Monday or Tuesday that I also had a normal-ish to light day to to come home and do a bit more deep dungeoning, because deep dungeons are new, so they're at the forefront of my brain. So that's what I've been doing, because I kind of want to get in there and get the deep dungeon experience before all the guides come out. 'Cause
Piety Materia 10, really?
'cause,
For all those people who are melding piety?
yeah, don't even know why that stupid materia exists anymore. They should just do away with that stat.
Well, there's a lot of discussion about stats that should be done away with. Like, there are too many things that people don't like. Like, a determination is you can make an argument for determination versus crit in terms of like determination versus crit is sort of like your higher payoff, but your chance of a famine versus your reliable, this always increases your damage stat, right? But
Mhm.
the only purpose direct hit serves is to increase the variance in damage that you will see from run to run, making things less skill dependent. So there's a strong argument to get rid of direct hit, but likewise, there's also a strong argument to get rid of tenacity, since tenacity is redundant to determination in most situations because damage has to be calibrated for tanks that have no extra tenacity.
Yeah,
So tenacity is a redundant stat, and piety should be a skill question, not a stat question, and it manifestly is nearly all the time. So like piety is a stat that people only use in progression, and you could easily design around that.
yeah,
So yeah, there's a lot of arguments that there's stats that really have no need to be here.
yeah. There's a lot of mechanical stuff that's either relics of how the game used to be, or just like all these stats existing clearly still exist today, because it would be weird if they would have to. Once you start culling stats, you're wind up with pieces of gear that have everything except for one substat on them, and I don't think they want to be in that situation, because right now it at least gives the appearance the gear has some depth to it when there's a bunch of different stats on gear, even if it really doesn't.
Yeah, I think that what they find is that uh, most of the player base just doesn't care that much about it. They're not that worried about gear, generally speaking. Like, they aren't like hyper focused on, oh, I want to really be min maxed type of thing. Like, that's just a necessity for participating in certain tiers of content. It's not something that people enjoy doing because the gear choices are just not that interesting, all told.
Yeah, and even then, this only counts for the top percentage of Savage players. Most casual Savage players, you may have the occasional min maxer in a static for a casual Savage progression or whatever, but the checks aren't so bad that you can't get away with a little bit of suboptimal uh, secondary stat melding. So it's kind of in a weird spot.
Yeah, I think that they really either they need to come up with a whole new plan, or they need to sort of like just streamline it down to the bare minimum. Oh, well, you've got variants, but with high ceilings and low floors, or you've got reliable stats that always go the same way. And those will be your choices.
Oh, there's a mimic. No, I don't remember what the core pucker does. But yeah. So my week has been I'll do Pinecone on the can. This has been a beat week in Pinecone pretty much, just continuing the event that has been ongoing, just continuing to farm that. Don't take any time to do, and just finishing that up. And for gaming, no single player stuff really. Just getting on and doing Final Fantasy. And if I'm tired, it's been a long day. That go-to has been Relic, Realm Reborn Relic weapon grinding, which I'm starting to hit a wall with, which I'll talk about in a sec. Exploded.
I did explode.
I exploded with you. So I mentioned the steps to a Realm-Reborn Relic weapon last week. I have completed as much of the steps ahead of time as I can before I get a weapon to that spot, except for doing the dungeons for the step where you turn in all the crafted stuff.
A dread beast stalks this floor.
You can strong.
What type of dread beast are we going to face?
Right. So I'll talk about those when we get to them a little bit, when we find them. But the thing with the Realm-Reborn relics is they have a step in them where you have to fill out 9 books, and to do these books, you need to kill 3 of 10 different types of enemies, complete 3 specific guild leaves. One will be in Northern Thanalan, one will be in Korthus, and one will be in Mordona every single time. And but which leave it is changes between the books. And you'll have to complete 3 specified dungeons for each book.
As long as you've got the leave allocation.
Yep. And then you'll have to complete 3 fates that are very specific fates and can be in quite a few places throughout the world. Now,
but I never up when you go looking for them.
That's the problem I initially thought you would run into with these, and that is true for some of them.
This is the problem that I actually ran into every time.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned last week, you can server hop to alleviate this problem and just go.
When I was doing them, server hopping was not a thing.
Yeah. So that is a much lesser problem now than it used to be, but still obnoxious having to go and transfer servers. Like, I was okay doing that back to back on my first run. I can re-strong, I guess.
Yes, it's not a very streamlined process, nor should it be. Like, I don't expect them to make it such that you can instantaneously server hop.
I mean, it's as close as you can get right now, reasonably. I think just go to a capital, talk to the Aetherite, and then pick a server to go to.
Can you carry the show? Somebody's calling me from work.
Right. So, while that is a doable thing, it is much more efficient to instead check as soon as you pick up the book. Check all the fate locations immediately. Just teleport to every single one. Or teleport to the zone every single one's in, open the map, check and see if it's up. If it's up, go do it. If it's not, or you're only able to do some of them, some of those 3 fates you need, then instead go to oh, this is gonna be a little rough. Then instead go pick up the guild leaves. Now, don't do the guild leaves yet. What you want to do is you want to teleport to all the guild leave locations and check them. If they overlap with a fate, you can check it when you're there. Now, this will usually give you enough time to pop another fate if it's a normal one. And I am half paying attention here and half talking at the same time. But sometimes even that's not enough. So next, you have 2 options. After you picked up all the guild leaves, you can then start doing the guild leaves, and after you complete each one, you can go check all the fates and see if they're up. And if you're still not done, you can do the dungeons and check and see if it's up. Now, you want to do a book in one sitting if at all possible. And the reason you want to try and do it in one sitting is because this checking method doesn't work if you take breaks, because the fate could pop while you were AFK. And you obviously don't want that to happen. So, yeah, that's how I did the books, and I've just been steadily working on them as time goes on, and just making progress. I have completed 6 of the weapons. My last one was one of the bugbear ones, which was Monk. Monk is a pain in the butt, especially when you're trying to solo low-level dungeons with a terrible weapon equipped. And the big reason for that is they have no Peloton, because they're not a ranged class. They have no ranged attack. And their dash doesn't even do damage or put them in combat. I'm going to give Vaul Bad Breath on. So getting through with Monk was quite the pain in the butt.
Alright, I'm back. You tried to kill me several times.
I was trying to hit you with bad breath, yeah.
Yeah, I had one eye on the screen, but yeah, there was a problem at work. It was not a major one though. It's just that they didn't know what to do about it. But they described it incorrectly when they first called and made it sound like it was a lot worse than it actually was.
I
It was,
see.
oh, no, no, no. No, this is actually a very, very minor problem that we can clarify with almost no extra effort.
So, yeah, I was just pulling crap on that floor to get us some EXP and trying to get you
Cool,
bad breath
cool.
on.
What did you talk about?
The process of getting the relic weapon. So I'll recap the highlights without going over everything I've just told listeners. So the big thing with these things that's time consuming is you need to do the books. The books are the biggest time sink when it comes to Realm of Worn relic weapons.
Yeah, the books actually stopped me from finishing my Cortana
So
because it took so much extra time. And the time that I was doing it, like a Realm Reborn relic weapons were current, so it was like, oh, I just don't want to invest this much time in it because I could be working on my Gay Bulg or my Bravura.
yeah, so the way you handle the books as easily as possible is you do one book in an entire sitting. This method does not work if you split it up. You have to do one book in the sitting when you pick up that book and you start working on it. And the reason for this is because the method I've devised works because of the timing of the spawn timers of the fates and how they work. Usually there is nobody camping these fates anymore or trying to do them. The biggest problem is just getting them to show up on cycle without having to waste time going around a zone and clearing all the fates in the zone to move the fate cycle of fates down to wherever the thing you're looking for is in the list, and then hope that its timer's up and it hasn't been done recently. That generally speaking is a recipe for disaster and wasting a whole lot of time. So instead, what you do, you pick up your book from Mordona, or you have it in your inventory and you're ready to start working on it. The very first thing you do is you teleport to every single zone that has a fate you need in it, and you check and see if the fate's up. And if it's up, you do it. If it's not, you just move on to the next one. After you've done that, for all the remaining fates that weren't up, you run around and you collect every guild leave that you have. Don't do them yet, just collect them. And there's a reason for this, because it saves guild leaves. And you just pick up all the guild leaves that you need, and you let them sit in your inventory. Now, sometimes the dude won't have the guild leave you need because they can only hold so many guild leaves, and they often on their person, and they have a pool that they can pull from of like 6 of them, and they may only be able to hold 4. So your thing may be one of the 2 that's not showing in that scenario. So in order to get it to show up, you have to cycle the guild leaves. So this means that your best bet here is to pick up all the guild leaves that are available right away and check every time you complete a guild leave. See if the ones that they didn't have on them are now available. Very rarely will you have to blow an extra guild leave just to cycle guild leaves doing this. I did not do this initially, and because I didn't know how guild leave cycling worked, because who does guild leaves? And but you figure it out pretty quick, because you'll wind up having to cycle every other guild leave this way, unless you do this. So
Talk about your poor abandoned game systems.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the picking up the guild leave part, and you check after you picked up all the guild leaves, you go and check all the fate locations again. You do any that are up, and if you're still missing some, you start doing the guild leaves and picking up the missing ones.
What's Dread?
That's the new Manticore, but it's combined with Succubus as well. It's stupidly rare, but just as powerful as all the other ones. Cannot be used when knockback disabled is on the floor. Like this one. So yeah. If for some reason you still haven't got all your fates, which isn't uncommon, some of the times they just don't spawn, to be sure you're always progressing, you next will queue for a dungeon.
Are there any fates on the list which can be in a book that require you to do a different fate first?
Yes, several of them. And thankfully, they usually are chains where the one that's the one that most people will notice is the very first book. If you're most people, which will be your primary damage stat, Skyfire 1 has enemy of my enmity or something like that. It's some play on enemy of my enemy, but it has enmity in it, and you can steal.
Oh, okay. You already got.
And you have to wait for a talkable dude to spawn at a specific point on the map. So when you're doing your fate looking, you look for this dude, or either the two fate in this chain, and then that one will send this dude running out, and the Sylphs and the Imperials will start fighting each other in the first step of the chain, and then you actually need the second step of the chain, which follows immediately afterwards. And it's just down the road. So similarly, there's the Tide Gate ones. So there's breaching and gauging the north and south tide gates. You will need breaching the tide gate for north in one book and south in another book. And this means you want to just check the Sahagin area to see which one's up. These aren't too bad because those aren't on a loop, and as long as the zone isn't fate capped or their cooldown isn't up because people came and actually did them and zipped them down, they should be moving up in sequence pretty quick. So those aren't too bad. But the bigger problem is the fates in which of the Thana lands has the burning wall, the level 40 area that dips down with all the crystals around it.
Western? No, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I can't open the
Southern?
map to check. Yeah, it's the one with the fate that has the boss with the owl at the bottom, because that's also in one of the books. There is that fate, and there is another fate called Quartz Coupling. Quartz Coupling, there we go. Those fates do not spawn for whatever reason, and I think it has to do with the stupid town defense 4-parter quest that spawns up in up the hill out of the ditch, because that is always up, and it seems like these fates take forever to pop. I've done an entire Guild Leaf collection cycle, an entire rest of the fates for this book, the entirety of the Guild Leaves themselves, and all the dungeons, and these things and Quartz Coupling still won't be up. Like, those in particular in that zone just have been a giant bugbear. The last book, they were pretty nice. They appeared in a reasonable time frame. They did not appear in a reasonable time frame in any of the other books. The other big one is in the tiny Lenoska, the one that has the big lake in the middle with the 2 trading posts. Upper or outer?
Lake?
Yeah, that one.
It's either Bronze or Iron Lake. I don't remember which one.
This one has the fate that is the exception to the rule. You cannot use this method for this particular fate. And this fate is called Surprise. It is a caravan being escorted past some kobold dudes leading up to Outer Lenoska.
I remember that one.
And these dudes are made of paper. And it's a defend quest. Or defend fate. So you get in there and you start the defend fate, and unless you are there within about a minute and a half of that fate spawning, your dudes are just going to die.
It's 100% babysit these guys.
Yeah, well, once you're there, they do regen their health after each wave, because they run back to the caravan and get out of combat. But before we go running down that way, let's check the other way. But unless you're there, you can see the RP start from the lake itself. So you can clear out fates in the lake and see the RP start at the bottom of the canyon that goes up towards the kobolds. But otherwise, there's no indication this thing's spawning. And it's that you have to just babysit this one. There's no way around this one. And thankfully, it spawns very frequently and is on a very short timer. But it is the only one that is mandatory that you show up and babysit it. All the other ones can be just done willy-nilly. Just check and see if they're up, and if you mess it up or somebody ninjas it from you, you can server transfer to fix it. So that's the fate part. The other problem I've run into doing these all at once, back to back to back, is guild leave allowances. The reason I mentioned collect all the guild leaves that are available first, and make sure you don't waste any guild leaves, cycling guild leaves that you don't need to, is because oh cool, we can get rid of this. Is because if you decide to make this your current project, and specifically your project that you're going to do when you're tired, so you have the most time but the least energy or effort to perform well, running out of guild leaves is your number one concern. Because after about each book at minimum takes 27 guild leave allowances, and realistically you're going to need about 30. Because you may have to cycle a few. So you can only hold 99 guild leave allowances. So if you want to do all the books, if you complete 4 weapons in a week, you're just out of allowances, and that's all she wrote. So I have run into that scenario where I think I'm at 18 guild leave allowances. I would check, but can I check the journal while we're in here? I'm at 12 guild leave allowances. So enough for 4 books if I was to go do them. And the books still take quite a bit of time. They take in around 40 minutes each if you're actually doing them and using the method I described just now. But having to do 9 stretches of 40 minutes back to back to back is quite rough. And I wish I could get all the books done at once, but guild leave allowances. I can steal. Oh, are we 90? Okay, we ain't got to kill everything anymore. Well,
We've been 90 for a while. Like, quite a while. Like, a couple floors sort of thing.
Yeah, I've been talking, so I've been letting my cooldowns lapse, and I'm popping, like, overheater, summoning my stupid...
I'm not even trying to keep up my cooldowns. I don't even know what cooldowns are important.
Yeah, you'll notice that my play... defaults to 1, 2, 3 spam with the occasional OGCD or heavy hitting cooldown weapon skill when I am talking and trying to drive the conversation there. So yeah, that was the relic weapon grinding that I did. I am now done with 6 weapons in total from the 2.5 weeks I've been working on this. And got 4 more to go. And I'll be glad when this one's checked off because it'll free up a lot of bag space. Alrighty.
I don't want to think about them. I don't want to go through the crafting thing again. That was too painful.
I did that all at once on one weekend, like on a Friday night or something. That it was technically the weekend. I didn't have to worry about sleeping, so I think that was my first weapon actually I did that on. I did that on the Paladin weapon. And I just saw that crafting step, and I'm like, is it going to let me craft as many of these as I want? Yep, we're getting this done right now. And not thinking about this ever again.
It's the decent thing that got me.
Decent thing.
I spent several million gil on that. My luck is very poor.
The decent rate is still pretty bad, but it is apparently is much better than it used to be from what people have done.
No, I did that. They did that stage recently. It's better than it used to be, sure, but my luck is still awful. So it's not necessarily better than it used to be. It may on average be, but the law of large numbers doesn't apply to me.
Oh, ain't that nice. Lethargy. It's spinning.
He's spinning his head very slowly.
Yeah, everything's going to be doing stuff pretty slow here. So yeah, I also pull extra crap when I'm talking. So I'm focusing on that. So yeah, that's the relic weapon. We have devised a method, or me and Abo have, of getting the light grinds done relatively quickly. That go really fast if... oh, that's okay.
If you have a pet neck.
Yeah, if you got somebody you can drag along with you. Or just recruit somebody for the last step, honestly. It doesn't take but 20 minutes to do all 12 of fixing. As we demonstrated before the show. But what you do is you check all the extremes and just do whichever one is quickest that has a a light bonus if one's available. If it's not, the most efficient way to affix the 12 Atmas on the very last step is 2 Moggle Mogs and 1 Ultima weapon. Because you need that gives you exactly 40 light if there are no bonuses. And you need exactly 40 light to affix the Atma, and you gotta do this 12 times. And normally this is the second light grind, and it's a big pain in the butt, and you gotta, get another 1600 light, and this is a big deal. Big pain in the butt. But any overcapping is wasted on this step, which makes it an extra pain in the butt. But with this, you don't have to worry about overcapping the light, and it is the fastest way that you could reasonably get light. It's also great light per minute during the normal light phase too. It's not as good as like Aurum Vail with light bonus, but it's the best non-bonus that I can think of.
Once you've seen the inside of Aurum Vail after doing a couple weapons, you're not gonna want to go back in there if you can help it.
I tell you what, I'm about to be done with Moggle Mog forever and never ever do them again. I don't care about that gold chest in that room very much. I don't care about that patrol either. What floor are we on? We're still on floor 5. I need to actually push my buttons and pick it up. Yeah, I've stopped hitting all even my baby cooldowns while I'm talking about that because I'm trying to remember. So that is, both of those are sound aggro. I'm just gonna pull them both so they get splash. Watch out for multiple piercing lasers. So yeah, that's been my casual Final Fantasy content. My more seriously paid attention to Final Fantasy content has been the Deep Dungeon. That's been pretty much all I've done for actually paying attention content. So the Deep Dungeon has been an interesting learn. Not coming in, looking up guides ahead of time and learning it in real time has been a lot of fun, actually. And there are no guides. Well, Mage's Guide is out now, but it's a rough kind of draft that's still grabbing crowdsourced information from people. So it's not quite complete. And it doesn't have pictures, doesn't have any of the extra notes that Meiji has in like her Palace of the Dead and whatever the other guide is. Heaven on High. So yeah, just been going through here. I am not actually done the first 20 floors very much, because most of it has been spent in the 21 to 30 bracket, just trying to clear the floor. And I've been trying it solo, and I managed to do it in my 50s in my Aetherpool 50s. Not comfortably, but do it on Red Mage. And finally got enough potsherds to buy the one collectible from the potsherd vendor. So I could start buying potions. Now, potions make a big difference when you're doing deep dungeons in Final Fantasy. And the thing they do for you, above everything else, is... did we miss a gold chest in that room? Is they let you play a DPS class without having to worry about auto attacks from the boss just killing you. Because while in here, stuff on average doesn't hit very hard. Like the actual attacks of these mobs are like wet noodles. They don't hit very hard. On a DPS, they'll chunk you for maybe 2 or 3k a hit. That's not that big a deal. But all the mechanics will just one-shot you. So you don't even really need the potions for these guys, and can just go through and hope you get a Doga. Or not Doga, an Uni for your...
I made poor decisions. I'm coming back.
Oh, bring friends. I'll witching it. I'll witching the problem and make it go away. Oh. Oh no. Please hold while we correct a rather big problem.
Yep. We're bad at this game.
another witching if I have to. I'm gonna have to. Well, that is certainly... Could have blown a fortune.
Oh no, I tagged another one.
It's okay, it's by itself. Oh, right, I have chainsaw now. I forgot we hit 90. So, that was fun. Oh, there's no luring trap in this room, at least. So, this is where I feel good in deep dungeons, is when disaster situations like that happen when I'm with people that don't do deep dungeons as much as I have. Because to me, it's just like, oh, there was a boo boo, but this is a fixable boo boo. It's just like when that happened, I was totally just, yep, that happens. It can be fixed. I just really like the feeling of mastery you can get in these deep dungeons, despite the fact that they're randomized. It's a very odd balance they've struck with them, because that's normally not the case with randomized content. Is you can't master it by its nature, or it's very difficult to. You can only master the basics, and you won't be able to do any kind of specific planning for the run or anything. But in Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High, etc., and the new Deep Dungeon, you can plan significant chunks of your run ahead of time without even knowing what palms you're going to get. It's a very unique type of randomized experience, which I appreciate.
A dread beast.
Do we have a storm? Oh, we actually have a storms. We still have a witching left over. We do. Remove those systems in the middle. Then we can actually deal with the dread beast. That one gives a damage buff. So right, these things. The reason I haven't talked much about them, because I've been waiting for us to find one again while we're talking on my week. Dread beasts are terrifying monsters. That one will one-shot you, even if you're a tank. You need a invuln cooldown to survive it. Period, end. And while they can be fought normally, nobody does this. Not a soul. Instead, you're going to use the method you will see me use in just a microsecond here. I will hopefully be able to demonstrate once this thing dies. Okay, this thing is dead. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get behind it, and I'm going to use a witching on it. So it's a chicken, that's good. If it's an imp, we got problems. So now, I'm going to pull it, pop a storms, take the hit, and kill it. While we got the storms going, might as well take advantage of it. And that is how you kill those things. Very simple, very straightforward. Unfortunately, mobs regenerate their health out of combat, which is why you have to pull the stupid thing before you pop the storms. And that's why we use the super safe witching. Check if it's an imp or not. If that was an imp, I was not going to do that. I was going to...
What does that mean? I don't know whether I've seen it or not.
Imps do not lose any auto attack damage when they turn into... when an enemy turns into an imp. So that thing would have its full auto attack damage, and its problem is its auto attack damage. So that one would just outright kill us. All the dread beasts hurt really hard with their auto attacks. They're the one exception to the rule in here, where stuff in general doesn't punch that hard. But that one gave us a 30-minute damage buff. It's not as potent as the Commander of Strength, but it does stack with the Commander of Strength. And it also gave us a piece of the Icarus Horde. They don't always give you Horde, but they can. I think they can give you potsherds, too. So they're worth taking out if you got the resources, but currently the method I showed you is the only universal, safe way to take care of them. You witch it, check if it's an imp. If it's not an imp, then you pull it, You storms it, and you hit it with an OGCD.
I've got checks from work.
So that's fine. I will just keep clearing out this room to try and get the chests. Yeah, I like the inclusion of Dread Beasts. They make the floors a bit spicier and give you something to really look out for, and something you can potentially gain a boon from if you plan around it. They are very unique in that way, and that they're a take on the old auspices system that Heaven on High had, where you could potentially get the dog or the lion or the other animals that would give you a buff, but it was just finding a buff on the ground that lasted 10 minutes in those. In this one, the buff lasts a full 30 minutes and requires a bit more active participation, which I appreciate. So, I've sighted the floor, so we can see the silver chest, which is all we really care about now, since we're level 90. Our palms are not looking too bad. Get it? So, the other thing is learning how to get around these floors without aggroing crap. I've talked about this before on previous podcasts with Palace of the Dead, etc. while we've done it, but there are multiple types of aggro in the game. The most common is the two most common are sight and proximity. Sight aggro is it has to be facing you, and if you are in whatever that mob's defined cone of vision is, it will aggro onto you and come attack you, and now you're in combat with it. Now, how big that cone is has some variance in it. It can be as small as 30 degrees. It can be as big as 180 degrees. But generally speaking, it is, if you look at its head and how big it is, you can eyeball how, and just after a while intuit how big the frontal cone aggro radius is. These aggro radii are also usually pretty small. You have to be pretty close and in front of it to trigger it. So this is you definitely want some you definitely want to practice with it and take advantage of it, but it is something worth paying attention to and just getting used to, because it'll save you a lot of time on the floors in here and in the other deep dungeons. The other one is proximity aggro. Proximity aggro is odd. Because even though things can aggro from proximity, the distance that proximity starts at varies from mob to mob, and you have no way of knowing this until you get close to it. So if you determine a mob is a proximity aggro mob, it is a very good idea to figure out what the distance its aggro radii starts at the next time you see one, just so you have it in your head and a clean example of where you can reasonably be, and try to learn how to play around it. You'll accidentally aggro all kinds of crap while you're experimenting with
Another
aggros.
call.
Oh, he said text before. I thought he was talking about a call last time. So, like, in here. I'll need to kill that thing eventually anyway, but I don't know what type of aggro these things have, but because they don't have a head, I am assuming they are proximity or sound, one I haven't talked about yet. So, which, as you saw right there, I waited for it to turn around just in case it was sight, and then went in there and just grabbed the thing without having to pull it. This guy was stuck right on top of the chest and in the way, and made the run back more complicated. But eventually you will start weaving between dudes in a room, and it will be a pain in the butt, but you'll be able to do it fairly easy. So it just comes with practice with doing these. I'm going to fight the next floor because we're pushing that timer. So yeah, that's the aggro types. The other one is sound aggro. I don't know how you PC people toggle it. I assume there's just a hotkey somewhere. But sound aggro can be triggered sometimes, not always, not a hard and fast rule, by attacks going off nearby, which is odd and doesn't always seem to work. It only happens sometimes. And or it can be triggered by you running. Now, on controller, what I just do is I come to a complete stop, press and hold circle, and then press the direction, and I start walking. And what's on the ground doesn't matter. That's not going to trip any sound aggro as far as I'm aware. But this will let you just RP walk, and you can sneak by the mobs. So very simple on controller. On keyboard and mouse, I assume you've got to tap a hotkey to make yourself walk. Alternatively, on controller, I just don't tilt the stick all the way and I'll RP walk. But if I tilt it fast enough, I just skip the RP startup step, as you've seen. So that's how you get around sound aggro. Most mob types also have what's called touch aggro. If you touch them, you will aggro them, and that's all she wrote. They are now in combat with you. Most mobs adhere to this rule, where if you touch them, they're aggroed onto you regardless of aggro type. But this is not universal, and the range on the touch aggro could be an itty-bitty little dot in the center of their model for all you know. It is for everything. And you just have to experiment with it to figure out what it is. But learning what mobs you don't have to pull is probably the most valuable skill in these deep dungeons because it will save you a colossal amount of time. Vaul is still AFK. We have a Doga, thankfully, so that will speed up. Next floor. Oh, the next floor is flighted. Don't have any intuitions and goes in this securities. So the other thing is learning your palms. So like in Palace and Heaven on High, most of these palms are the same, but some of them are new or have slightly different effects. We have safety and sight. Safety removes all traps on the floor. Sight shows me the entire map of the floor in the upper right-hand corner, and it reveals all traps on the ground. Strength increases your damage by a chunky percentage. It's something like 30, 40% or something like that. Yeah, 30%. And steel reduces your damage taken by 40%. Steel is not as necessary as it has been in previous deep dungeons, simply because most of the damage comes from mechanics and not from auto attacks. Affluence, more treasure coffers on the next floor you go to. Useful if you're running low on palms or you're just starting to run out. Flight reduces the number of enemies on the next floor you go to. Alteration turns one room on the next floor into a mimic or Corrigan room. Corrigan room, you can ruffle stomp all the enemies inside of it with one hit, and they have a high chance to drop chests. If it's a mimic room, they still have a high chance to drop chests, but they are mimics, so you have to deal with that. Purity, which is in the empty slot, removes the pox debuff from the mimics that they can inflict on you if you don't have an interrupt, and that's literally all it does. Fortune increases the chest drop rate from all enemies on the floor for the entire floor, regardless of the mob's spawn type, by quite a bit. You'll actually see quite a few chests sometimes, but I flighted this floor, by the way. But generally speaking, I wouldn't rely on it to get you any chests, and I generally only pop a fortune if I'm capping on them, or
I literally only have 6 buttons.
Oh yeah, you're a Dark Knight, so most of your crap is abilities. That's okay. We just need to get to the exit anyway, because we're kind of pushing time on this floor set.
Yeah, unfortunately, people keep ringing me.
Yeah, so
that's what I mean. Are people unwilling or unable to make decisions on their own?
Yeah. So while you were gone, I was going over the different aggro types in Palace of the Dead and the different palms for this one. Not Palace of the Dead, of Eureka Orthos. And the different palm types that are available in this one. So we were at Fortune. Witching turns enemies into a chicken, a imp, or a frog. Your ideal is the frog. The frog does no damage. Practically, it hits for single-digit auto attack damage. Well, not quite that low, but it hits basically for nothing. And don't be behind this thing after it casts Dissever, otherwise it'll do mean thrash. Well, if you're solo, you actually want it to do that, because you can bait it out and just leave it casting, but not muchness. The Imp is the worst, because it does not reduce the auto attack damage at all, and just effectively acts as a silence. This is very dangerous with the Dread Beasts, and if you're using the method before, this is why you check and see if it's an Imp. Imps are the little things that Ultros turns you into during his fight in the trial. Those that are unaware. I don't need that room. Next is the chicken. The chicken is somewhere in between the two. It hits for about 25% of its normal auto attack damage, which makes the Dread Beast survivable, but not trivial like Frog will. Generally, you only use these if there is a disaster, where suddenly you find yourself like that. I just baited out the mean thresh on purpose, just to leave it doing its thing. You generally only use witchings in an emergency or when you're planning to take out a treasure room or a drug beast, or if bad things happen. If you step in a luring trap, witchings are good. They're just good get out of jail free cards that can turn a probably lethal situation into a much more manageable situation very quickly. These guys literally do nothing except hit hard. Right, so these are the other exceptions to the auto attack damage rule. There are some Bob types in here that's gimmick is their auto attack damage. They just are double auto attackers. Vaul's a tank, so he doesn't really feel it. But if you're playing a DPS, you will notice them adding up if you pull a bunch of them. Oh goodness, this boss also requires me to pay attention, and I have not done it very many times.
Yep, because I'm almost certainly going to die.
You know what? Doga, come help us out. He can't petrify it, but he does decent damage. So, Doga is gonna come here and help cheer us on. Alright. So, right away, if you're watching me play here, you may notice I'm not very good at Mechanist, but even then, I'm still trying to optimize my damage here, just to get as much damage as you can, because the less you have to deal with mechanics, the better. General rule of MMOs for people that are so new-ish to them. Ooh, that's not safe. Oh, not sure this is safe. I'll try to stick close to Vaul so you can look at where I'm going and guess based on that. Okay, this looks safe. And we'll have to move across the whole room, so get ready. There is probably a way to read that quicker and move sideways to a safer, closer, safer spot. But while I'm trying to do the show at the same time, my brain just don't work that good. So bad. So yeah. That's the thing with this deep dungeon as well that I mentioned earlier. Whoops. This deep dungeon in general is much harder than the other ones mechanic wise, and while that may make the overall difficulty quite a bit lower to some people, it okay, I'm gonna try a sideways swim in this. Hope I don't get totally owned. Okay, that worked. It does require a ton of attention mechanically, especially on the bosses. So when you get to a boss, you actually have to pay attention and see what it's doing. And because all those things are potentially or just straight up are lethal. Especially to a DPS class. Now, if you're playing a tank in here, you have tank privilege, so you can get away with more shenanigans. But
I think that based on what I've observed, though, that your DPS is going to start to become a real problem at higher floors.
Yeah, the thing with deep dungeons and why people can get away with playing tanks and they say they're the easiest is because of multi-pulling, and multi-pulling is even easier in this dungeon because of the low auto attack damage. So what they do is they...
Well, you haven't really seen what sort of shenanigans they might pull on the real high floors, though. I'm sure that they will have thought of that. They'll want to make it not trivial, so they'll probably have put some kind of incredibly unpleasant little fishhook in that particular strategy.
Yeah, that has been the go-to method in Palace and Heaven on High. Don't know if it'll work here or not, but you gotta stay Dark Knight, unfortunately. For this
do you? Oh,
yeah.
right, yeah, because you can't change in this game mode.
Once we wipe, then you can change. Have you got any Aether Pool at all from those 20 floors?
Like 2.
Yeah, this is you should start getting some pretty soon here. This is the floor set I'm most familiar with. I've been doing this one a lot, and usually can kill Tiamat with no problems. It's the next floor set where I forget things, and especially the floor set after that. I've made it past the floor 40 boss twice now. Once with Abo and once on my own. Oh no, they were both with Abo. I haven't cleared floor 40 on my own yet. That is a lie. Ooh, my armor flares at 92.
I have never seen a flare before.
So that's a return. I don't care about that. I want the silver chest. So yeah, this is where, now that there is no leveling to do and our palms are, we're even starting with good palms, so I don't have to go out of my way for gold chests. I can just go in here. Wyvern's in the middle of the room. This is where you start applying mob knowledge. And you're going to want to know all the mobs on this floor set very well, because this is the floor set to grind Aether Pool and Fragments on. Or your starting Fragments, anyway. It is not very fragment efficient if you're able to get to the higher floor sets. But you need the Aether Pool before you can get there, and you're going to be here anyway. So, I was actually really mad about something with the potsherds that I found out earlier. Getting the stupid potsherd fragments or whatever, these things only gaze in front of them, by the way. So if you walk to the side, oh crap, I'm dead. Do I get for trying to talk? Oh no, I'm not. I was out of the body slam in time. These guys are free, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter if they hit you with the gaze. And even then, the gaze is only in front of you, and all it does is paralyze you.
Oh, my armor brightened.
Yay. I think that's +2.
Yep.
So, ooh, my arm flickered. It's 90. So yeah, you'll be getting most of your Aether Pool buildup and most of your starting fragments from this area. And you want to try and get potions as soon as possible. And to be honest, the Framer kit from the vendor for 10 Poetics, in addition to being terrible, you can get it from bronze chests. I didn't know this.
Chests or sacks?
Sacks. Not chests, sorry. From bronze sacks. But yeah, you could totally get it from bronze sacks. And if you're running this floor set a lot, and if you have friends that need to get Aether Pool, you're going to be on this floor set a lot. You're going to get plenty of bronze chests just to take there, and you may wind up just getting it and not have to spend the 10 pot shards. So, if you don't want the ugly adventure plate and aren't going for super completion, just start getting the potions right away. It'll make your life way easier. Because right now, I bought the stupid thing and didn't find out that it comes from bronze sacks until afterwards. I really don't want to pull those whatevers if I don't have to. In fact, I don't know why I pulled anything in this room at all.
Well, because we needed one more to go.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did. It's okay. It worked out. You blew him up, too. So, yeah. Strategic use of landmines in this one is much more valuable than it is in the other ones. You can start it as early as the first floor set. Where if you know a landmine is in the room, or you find a silver chest, and you are certain you can survive both the explosion and the damage from the attacking monsters, use that crap. Make these things go faster. I'm going to actually pop a strong to make this go a bit faster, and a sight, because we're overcapping on them. Normally, I am much more free with my Pomander use in this new deep dungeon, because there's no reason not to be. It's all the stuff in here hits relatively hard, and as long as you keep a stockpile of a few of things and just don't waste any witchings or storms or dreads or any of the big ones, you're generally okay. And you can use the other palms however the heck you want.
This is not a large map.
No. Go ahead and pop an affluence to restock a few palms on the next floor. I'll go ahead and alter it too, since we have 2 interrupts. Generally speaking, alteration is way more dangerous on this floor set, because getting pox on a caster here is almost a death sentence if you just can't interrupt the mimics if you're a caster. You have nothing to do. You have no stuns or interrupts. So you want to be careful altering depending on what you're soloing with. But you can totally get away with altering if you've got an interrupt. It's just the same gamble it always is. Do you want to risk the room full of mimics or the free room? Either way, they're still more likely to drop treasure chests. Come here. So you're gonna see the landmine strat here.
Keep breaking my combo.
Yeah, we're blinded. So that's the landmine strat. You can do that with more than one mob. It's fairly straightforward. Still need one more. And I missed a recombobulated drill. Recalibrated drill, whatever it's called. So yeah, that's what I've been spending my time doing. Is just going through this floor set a lot in the deep dungeon, getting a feel for it, seeing how the classes work. That's another. The door's open. Seeing how the classes work and feel at level 80 in a deep dungeon, or 90 at a deep dungeon, because this is another thing that we haven't had before. Like, Paladin feels terrible in the lower deep dungeons because they've retweaked its kit to put half of its damage into a spellcasting phase that doesn't exist until somewhere in Shadowbringers.
Is that still the case?
Oh yeah, here in this one. Or
No, I mean since the Paladin changes.
Oh yeah, they didn't. Yeah, they didn't go out of their way to move that up to a decent level. No, half your combo's just gone. And so you're stuck with this wacky 1-2-3 combo without the entire half of your combo. And in fact,
it'd be like playing Warrior while you don't have Fell Cleave.
Yeah, it's just not there. And it's not there until the mid-70s. So yeah, it's a pain in the butt. But playing Paladin in here, you start off with most of your spellcasting combo, and you actually get to 90, so you can use the full Confiteor combo, which the whole rework of the spellcasting system is all built around the new Confiteor combo and dumping all of your buffs into it. And until you get it, it really feels like the class is just gimped. It's like playing a Gunbreaker without cartridges. But having even less extra buttons to hit. They really have got to move some skills around on Paladin to make them feel better at lower levels. Because I flat refuse to queue at lower levels as a Paladin. I won't do roulettes that are leveling or anything that is likely to throw me into super low level content as a Paladin, just because I don't want to play it. But at 90, it's got all its kit, and this makes a dread. And this makes oh, you got innervated. This makes the experience a whole lot better on a whole lot of classes. Ones that just don't feel very good. And I haven't experimented with very many. Summoner's another one. In its current iteration, just feels awful to play at low levels. They've just moved all of its kit to in-game. And like all of its off-global cooldown abilities and all of its big heavy hitting
in some ways, I think it's actually worse for Summoner than for Paladin, because the problem with Paladin is that it's too simple at low levels. There's nothing to do. But the problem with Summoner is that nothing makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's no logic to the class at a low level, because it's just like, oh, you cast Ruin, and then you cast other Ruin, and then you cast other Ruin. Like, all of the spells that you can cast are Ruin.
Yeah.
So you don't have any way of sort of like intellectually thinking your way through what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. It's when I first picked Summoner back up and got synced down, I had no clue what buttons to hit.
Every button does the same thing.
Oh, right. That's the pull-in that's huge. You're a tank.
Yeah.
You'll survive.
It tickled.
Yeah, it is survivable, but for a DPS, if it is the only mob you're fighting. But I don't recommend tempting fate.
Oh, I'm going to tempt fate. Now that I know I can survive it. I'm going to regret it, for certain, but...
Yeah, there are some attacks like that that are not outright lethal, just potentially lethal. If it crits on DPS, you might die. And there just ain't anything you can do about that. all these juicy serenities. So yeah. What's the other classes I've tried? Red Mage. Red Mage doesn't change at all between 60 and 90. You add 3 more steps.
They just make the combo longer.
Yeah.
That's all.
They literally just tag more buttons onto the big the melee combo.
But you get your abilities get incredibly blingy the higher your level gets.
Yeah, and this is a slight problem in here actually on Red Mage. So in this scenario, let's say I walked into this room and I just pulled this Ortho Droid as a Red Mage. If I had just done my melee combo in the previous room and had the final step, which is the big line attack, that line has like a 40-yard range on it.
Which looks really cool in terms of aesthetics. Like, it's a badass looking attack that really fits the whole aesthetic. However, it is a hazard.
Yeah, you will wind up accidentally pulling double mobs in here all the time. Thankfully,
away from really.
Yeah, thankfully on this floor set that doesn't really matter. Nothing on this floor set is super dangerous. So you can just kind of meander your way through. Oh, there's a swingy swinger.
Oh, swinge beast.
Got swinging. All right, I don't have to worry about turning him away from the group anymore. You're the tank.
He's not swinging very fast.
No, he's gonna be there for a while. So yeah, we have lethargy going, so they're gonna be a while doing whatever they're gonna do. You gonna swinge?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a robot. Go, robot.
Slowest body slam of all time.
Yep. So, oh, he's trying to swinge again. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoy deep dungeons both when I have to focus and as casual content to play with friends. I know you haven't done very much of the current one, Vaul, but based on what I've said, what do you think of it?
I think that it's more sort of continuation of a good thing. I wonder. I'm sort of wondering if they had been a bit more adventurous, would it have made it add more flavor, or would it run too much of a risk of breaking the formula that seems to be working?
Yeah, the Dread Beasts are the biggest change.
I don't know. The Dread Beasts I'm not 100% sold on because it feels like they're a little bit binary. Either you have the tools to reasonably deal with them, or you don't. It doesn't really feel like there's a skill solution to the Dread Beast problem.
Yeah, it was there. I was mentioning this. I think you were on the phone about how they feel like the next iteration of the auspice system from Heaven on High, where you would sometimes find the dog or the lion, and you could run up to it, and it would give your whole party a buff.
Yeah, I mean, I like it in principle. It's just that I don't necessarily think that it's ideal that they be so binary.
Yeah.
That it's like, well, you can like at the beginning of the show, you can run into this incredibly cool bonus and then just be not able to interact with it in any way. You can only stand and look at it.
Or you can come in here day one and see it like I did, and like, oh, that's cool. Let's pull everything else in the room and see what it does, and get whacked on Paladin with defensives going. But yeah, the big thing about Dread Beast that makes me actually like their inclusion is they are a hazard. Number one, they require resources to get over, and they are more interactive than the Auspice system was, where the Auspice is just there, it's just another buff. Who cares? These require you to engage with the mechanic to decide.
Yeah,
if the
I mean,
worth
I see that and I don't disagree. It's just that with the auspice, it may be uninteresting, but at least it's always, oh, hooray, an auspice. Whereas in this case, it's more like, oh, would have been great if that had appeared in a couple of floors after I had the poms to actually deal with it.
Yeah, so it basically, they mandate that you do keep a storm on you, a witching, and well, storm and witching is really all you need, but a storm and a witching on you to be sure that you can take care of the problem. I'm just gonna make all these guys slow too. I'm trying to do a show, dang it.
He's trying to have a swinge.
You can swinge. So yeah. The other big thing I wanted to spend some time talking about, now that we have some experience with it, is or I have some experience with it, is the bosses. And the bosses that I've seen. You'll remember in Heaven on High, and to a lesser extent, or in Palace of the Dead, and to a lesser extent, Heaven on High, the bosses had mechanics, but they didn't matter at all, and they were very simple mechanics. In this one, the mechanics are much more lively, and the bosses much more intense, and require you to pay attention.
Yeah, I like actually have a feeling of dread when I come up against a boss in this one because I know that they're very, very lethal. I mean, I know that with experience that will eventually fade, but they are much scarier to face down than most of the bosses in previous deep dungeons I've seen. Oh my goodness, really? 2 Ortho Knights?
Well, the good news is, the bad news is they're not slowed because they spawned after the lethargy was used. Hang on.
My only heal is on cooldown.
Oh, I'm so dead.
Oh, that was... No.
And then sometimes things like that can happen if you get overconfident.
Yeah, I was just like, hammer the 4 key. The 4 key being Living Dead. No, it's not going to go off in time, is it? Nope, it's not. Instant does not mean instant. Instant means when the game feels like it.
Yeah, and that was me just trying to find buttons on Mechanist that I don't push a lot. So there are challenges playing classes you're not familiar with in these deep dungeons as well. That you learn a lot of mechanics for classes by going in these deep dungeons. And you can actually learn them properly now since the deep dungeon is level 90. So taking a class you just are kind of interested in poking at into a deep dungeon with a group is totally something you can do. We should probably back out and reset and go back in and just dump our palms, even though we had some good palms, because we're going to lose them at floor 30. We won't be able to continue. Well, we could continue to floor 30 and keep that palm set, actually, and then just reset afterwards.
We have 3 dreads, man.
Yeah, we do. I thought about that. We do have 3 dreads. So we can at least beat up Tiamat. Man, I got my armor and weapon to flare on that set. Man, this is why you don't get complacent.
And I am back to no progress whatsoever.
And that doesn't bode well. So yeah, that's been Eureka Orthos. I don't have much more to say about it other than the bosses themselves, if we wanted to talk about those individually. But I kind of want to wait to do that until I've got a bit deeper into the dungeon. And have some time for all the bosses to really set with me. And have some time to process what's going on. And even though it does require you to pay attention, nothing in here requires you to read other than the cast bars. So I have no problem just audiobooking and going to town in here. It can be totally just passive content. If in that sense. And I have got one good item from a silver chest. I finally got a coat, the urban coat or whatever, and it sold for like 800,000.
I'm sure that's not going to last.
Yeah, well, it's from a silver. It's not that hard to get. That's floors 30 to 60. I know there aren't a lot of people on those floors right now because people are still farming their Aether Pool and stuff, and the dungeon's still new. But I imagine the price won't be too much. Drop too much on that one. All the rare and expensive outfits that the bronze chest drop that used to cost a lot, like the coin trail set and stuff, all of them have tanked in price to vendor price. Like that stuff before the Deep Dungeon released was on the auction house for a lot of gil. Like we're talking at least 200,000 for a full for both pieces of the Quentrail set on a good day. So, so yeah. That's I think that's all I really got to say on the deep dungeons. We have an email. A lot of
I will
wyverns.
need to actually look at my screen properly to read an email.
Okay. Do we have a landmine handy?
That one's a hex in there.
That is okay. Let's follow me. Do this right. Should only get the robot. Behold, deep dungeon strats. That is very common when you're solo.
I don't think that's a deep dungeon strat. I think that comes from your experience with Lion, to be honest. The facings of rotating things.
Oh, yes. So, yeah. This thing is proximity aggro, so there's nothing you can do about that. If you're closer, you touch it, it's going to aggro. Do we have to fight this guy? I don't think we have to fight this guy. Dust. Just hang out there, mister.
You stepped on its tail.
Hey, its tail is outside of his hitbox. And for proximity aggro being, or aggro in general, that mobs that have the touch modifier for their aggro as well, that hitbox can be the very center of their hitbox that you need to touch to aggro them. And that may be it. Or there can be mobs that just don't have the touch aggro modifier for whatever reason. So some of them you just walk right through them and they won't care as long as you don't set a foot in front of their vision cone. You can steal. Well, we might as well blow everything we got since we can't take these palms anywhere reasonable. I get. Gather some dudes up and take them to that landmine. If you've got aggro on them, you can mobs.
I've got so much bloom that when the eye appears, it prevents me from seeing which direction the mob is facing.
Okay, landmine time. Got that one a little close.
I'm gonna freaking die, aren't I? We're gonna living dead.
Yeah, living dead. Cooldowns are meant to be used.
Yeah, the problem is, can I heal myself in time?
I think you've already triggered it.
So long as I can. I was a bit worried that they would all die and I wouldn't be able to trigger it.
I was holding off the crossbow thing, just in case. Now the exit. The exit's still not open. Glad we did that landmine play. There you go. Landmine plays take practice, getting used to them, but they are a very handy thing to get used to. Just because they can speed up floors that you just happen to have sighted so much. I don't think I can sneak by this guy. That's another owl in that room. But we'll just take it one at a time from here. So yeah, once we get to the next floor, Vaul, you can just read the email, I guess, and I will. So, go both of these dudes. Oh, pro tip, don't pull a bunch of these wyverns at once. One stack of poison, you barely notice. 2 stacks, that can hurt a little bit. 3 stacks and up, you're running into danger. Okay, so I will carefully pull the floor and solo the floor for a bit while you read the email.
Right. Let's see. I did bring this up before the show. Here we go. Dear no excuse. So my sub to WoW has finally ran out, and after 3 or so months I can say it's alright. Compared to Shadowlands and BFA, it's actually pretty good. The content cadence is much faster, there is less of a FOMO, there are a lot of quality of life improvements, the most annoying M plus affixes are being removed, the story is not complete retcon cancer, and just flying around on your dragon feels right. There are going to be catch-up mechanics added for professions, practically every gear will be upgradable, there will be side activities to gear alts. Still wouldn't recommend it to people just on a whim, but it is a market improvement. Unlike everything else Blizzard did with the bonus slash or destroying all their esports apart from Overwatch 1.5. On a whim, I have bought Meg's Monster, quite possibly the most simplistic JRPG I have ever seen, with a dead simple combat system, more simple than Epic Battle Fantasy 1. Simple puzzles, and just to make sure that everything is clear, flashbacks to other characters' point of view and background every 20 minutes just so you know why they have a sudden change of heart. So the human child, Meg, fell into the underworld full of monsters, sounds familiar, and bumps into you, Roy, a ridiculously OP monster with 999999 hit points. Your job is to protect Meg from other monsters who want to eat her and reunite her with her mother on the surface. Problem is, if Meg cries, the world literally explodes. The whole game clocks out around 4 to 5 hours, so the $15 price tag might be just a tad high unless you get it on sale. Speaking of JRPGs and epic battle fantasy, I have went back to FF14, caught up with the new stuff, and now I'm doing Spess Bunny Reputation and Bushhead Boy crafting turn-ins.
Oh,
Also,
and
Hildebrand for glowy weapon. Not that the Sage laser thingies don't already glow, but now they glow in red. I have also downloaded the Tough Love mod for Epic Battle Fantasy V that adds a lot of new status effects and equipment and new behaviours to enemies. Also makes the game harder, so my poor mage gets one shot by bears. And finally, it wouldn't be a Serathis email without mentioning Doom. For a while I haven't played any maps that were worth mentioning. There were a couple that were very neatly done, either in terms of combat or looks or even atmosphere, but nothing that blew my mind until I saw the award nomination thread on the Doom World forum constantly mention myhouse.wad. So I decided to check it out, and oh boy, they sure put the creepy in creepypasta. Serathis.
okay. So,
I still keep up a little bit with WoW stuff, out of sort of morbid fascination, I suppose you could say. But the optimism that I've been seeing regarding new changes like upgradable gear and stuff, it all still sounds like cope to me.
yeah, it
It's
also
like you had that system in Pandaria and it was okay.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was okay. It was not groundbreaking. It did not make the game good where it previously wasn't good, and it did not make the game bad where it previously wasn't bad. But it also didn't make a game that people don't like a game that they like. And a lot of people don't like WoW now.
Yeah, this has been my big thing. I just don't care what WoW does. There's nothing WoW can do to interest or bring me back anymore. As far as I'm concerned, WoW is a lost cause, and it's time to move on. And I'm quite happy with the casual side of Final Fantasy right now.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of things to do. Even at the like Aristeal might not be able to perceive it, but he consumes content at an absolutely ballistic rate that nobody else can normally hope to match without being a neat. So for a normal person, you basically have infinite casual content to participate in.
Well, even then, it's I consume content faster than the vast majority of people, but I still have plenty of stuff that I haven't done. Like, I finished most of the headline grinds at this point, but there's still all kinds of other stuff I could do. There's still collecting to do. There's
You're
still,
not Mahjong champion yet.
yeah, not, there's still the other thing. The what's the minion thing? The
Verminion.
Yeah, still haven't touched that.
I haven't touched Chocobo Racing or Verminion
Yeah,
or
barely.
Mahjong. I haven't even touched Triple Triad really.
Yeah, I barely have touched Chocobo Racing. Let's just get. Oh, the horde's in that floor. That room. Never mind. JK, we're gonna go get that. I grabbed the dragon, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I'm gonna try and get this thing without aggro on anything. No promises. So, Also, if you're wondering why the game sound music is muted, but you can still hear a little bit of my sound, I have the. You saw me doing it earlier at the start of the show. I killed my game music and turned my master volume way down because I do. It helps to hear just a little bit in here. You want to be able to hear when mobs are spawning behind you in particular. So yeah, there's so much to do in Final Fantasy. There's stuff I haven't touched. I've done the Eureka grind for one weapon. Still a whole bunch of others I can go do.
You're just champing at the bit for more Pagos.
Yeah, not that I would ever wish to inflict myself on that, but it is technically something to do. Like, I'm just throwing away bombs since we can't take them to past floor 30. But yeah, it blows my mind that there is a not small contingent of people in the YouTuber scene, particularly for Final Fantasy, that are sitting there complaining about the amount of content they have to do. Like, these people, a bunch of them have just started around the same time I did, too. Like, my dudes, how much are you playing this video game?
Well, the people who do that are always the people who are big in the community, and they're big in the community because they're streamers, and they're streamers because they play the game for a job.
Yeah, like, I don't know what to tell you, my dudes. I have a dude that doesn't have a job that I can pester to come help me and do anything with. And I don't have the time to do everything in this game. I have on-call recruitment for at least one other person for any other piece of content in the game. And I just do not have the time to do every piece of optional content in this game right now. Maybe give me another couple, 2, 3, 4 years, maybe I'll get most of it done. But that's a big if.
Wow, 2 in the same room and neither of them exploded.
That was nice.
There's a novelty.
Every aether pool helps.
Unless you die.
Yeah. So yeah, it just is something that annoys me whenever I see people talking about the content in this game, and they're like, "Oh, I wish there was more to do. I wish there was some kind of dailies." No, I don't want that. I want a grind I can work on and just be done with it. Final Fantasy XIV is unique in the MMO sphere, and that it lets you do that.
Well, the thing is that I think that's just a situation where they've got the same syndrome that most MMO players, it seems to be most MMO players, seem to have this mentality that the game belongs to them, and the only type of content that should be in the game is the one particular kind that they really like. They don't want a smorgasbord of things to choose from that you can use to pass the time. They are absolutely hell-bent on, like, oh, well, if there's nothing for them to do, it's because they only want to raid, and therefore raiding should be the thing that there's more of in the game. It's, oh, we need to have more raid tiers. They should stop wasting time making things like relic weapons, which are for casuals. Like, it's the same attitude you find everywhere. They just believe that the game is theirs and that it should serve them. Like, all the things that you enjoy as low-key activities to sink a bunch of time into when you can't be bothered doing anything that requires a huge amount of attention, I mean, those things are resented by those other people because they think the game should cater to them. It's like, but I don't want to stop playing the game and do something else the way Yoshi P suggests. I want to play more of the game because I like it. That means I'm a fan of the game and I'm supporting it. I want it to be better by sinking all of its resources into doing the thing that I want it to do. And they don't see anything strange about that point of view. They don't see anything selfish about it.
It feels
they only see what they want.
It feels even worse in Final Fantasy because from the outset of A Realm Reborn onwards, they have made it a point in the design of the game to make sure there's a whole lot of optional fluff to do.
Like, what other game has the gold saucer?
Yeah,
like, you can literally just spend all day there dicking about.
Or forget the gold saucer, a freaking your island sanctuary that just came out. Like, that's total fluff content.
Well, I mentioned the gold saucer because it's been in the game for such a very long time.
Yeah,
I don't think it was in at launch, but it was part of the Realm Reborn set of data.
yeah. It just there is so much random junk to just make a project of in this game if you want to, and you can take her as long or as short a time with that project as you want. Like, oh dear, like I didn't have to do all the relic books back to back like I did, but I like focusing on one aspect of the game at a time, and in general, like focusing on one aspect of games at a time, and really putting my nose to it. Then that's totally an option in Final Fantasy, and it has the unique aspect of with that type of combat and play style, you are done when you're done with that grind. There is just another one you go to, so you can finish a grind.
Wow, that circle actually projects on the floor and passes through the floor and projects on the surface below. You can
Oh,
see through the gaps.
I guess those things might have uh, wall textures on them, so they grab light or markers.
Unai, I wanted more ether pool.
Oh, I'm not gonna pop her on this floor. We're almost out of this floor. I'll pop
Yeah, I mean, I don't have time to sink into a lot of the projects that I would like to do, but the reality is that the game was designed from the ground up that content doesn't need to be sunsetted. So I can, I'll take care of it next expansion if I don't get to it this expansion. It's all.
her. Yeah, and there's plenty of grinds to do, and not all of them are super fun. Like some of them have been chores that I wouldn't recommend on other people, like Eureka. But but yeah, it's uh, it's just there's so much crap you can pick to do, and you can pick and choose the grinds you want to do. You don't have to do every single grind in the game, and going for 100% completion is quite frankly insane in this game and impossible. Unless you've been playing since the beginning from every single event, there's going to be something you ain't got. And even if you're just excluding those like I am, you're still looking at a multi-year uphill battle to put a dent in it. It's because they put so much random stuff in the game. And right now, that's kind of what I'm looking for in an MMO. I'm not looking for a hardcore MMO right now. Maybe one day, maybe I'll get some free time and be able to do that again. But not right now. And Final Fantasy just has what I need, which is a grind and a whole bunch of casual fluff to go do. So yeah, that's that. I can now scroll up to last week, and I can talk a little bit about the news last week, or we can try to fill out the last bit of the show while we wrap up this floor set, and then we can probably call it. So, Squeenix has a new president.
And hopefully he doesn't like crypto anywhere near as much as the previous guy did.
Yeah, the old guy at Squeenix was dead set on the NFT crypto thing, and I could understand somebody in the business world keeping an eye on crypto, but throwing your company behind it right now, especially a company like Squeenix, and then getting into the weeds with NFTs, it makes sense why it was replaced.
Yeah, well, it's not so much that he thought it was a good idea, so much as he clung to it when obviously nobody wanted it. Like the public made their opinion on NFTs very clear.
Yeah, they are not a thing people want, or yeah, they don't make sense to a lot of people. They don't make sense to me. To me, they're just
They don't make
JPEGs.
that they don't make sense. That's the thing. They don't make sense. Like, I think that this is it's very easy to sell ideas to humans, and NFTs demonstrated that. And I think that the idea, maybe at some point in the future, is saleable because, after all, DLC was saleable. People buy DLC all the time. I bought DLC today because I had envy of people who have the glow stick waving emotes, and I didn't, so I bought the glow stick waving emotes. But so an idea like that would have been ridiculous in a previous era, and it's not considered ridiculous now. So these ideas can be sold. However, when the market is sort of like actively speaking against you for actively shitting up something in the game that they like with something that they don't like this is not, it's not really an advantageous way of doing things. Are you trying to do a thing here, or
No, they were just kind of all in the way, and none of these mobs are particularly dangerous, especially with the slow on them. Like the Voivories only put a room wide vulnerability up on the raid when they're out of combat. Otherwise, they do literally nothing. They're a double autoer whose double auto doesn't hit for anything. And the Bios just they just shoot circle AoEs. Might have another type of AoE too, but generally they don't live long enough to see it, so I'm not sure what it is if they do have one. So yeah, that is man, I've got one level. I had +5 on my total Aether pool in that last run. I was still so mad.
yeah, well, we got sloppy and we paid the price.
Got sloppy.
Sloppy.
So yeah. So hopefully Squeenix gets their act together on that. It's been worrying seeing Squeenix talk about it. And
well, I mean, what has that guy presided over now? He's presided over the NFT debacle. He's presided over the Final Fantasy 15 debacle. He's presided over the whatchamacallit, the Forspoken debacle. He's divested Squeenix of a number of IPs that still had value, but that he'd mismanaged, like the whatchamacallit ones. I think that it was under his watch that they got rid of Deus Ex. Like he's just basically made a hash of everything, and the only thing which has just been consistently a performer really has been Final Fantasy properties, for the most part, excluding the boy band road trip one.
and even
a lot of those are either Yoshi P's projects or trading on nostalgia.
Yeah, or some mobile game that just plays on the brand.
I think they shut the mobile game down.
Did they?
I'm not sure.
Literally just one chest.
But yeah, so he just has not been a performer as far as CEOs are concerned. Like the job of the CEO is to determine what is the best place to put the business's money, and functionally he's just clowned up every opportunity he's had to do that. All of his decisions have been bad, generally speaking. All of the money that he's chased after has proven to be unwise. Projects have been managed poorly under his watch. Like, I'm not surprised they got rid of him, but hopefully the person who replaces him will be better. There's no real guarantee of that, but we'll wait and see, I suppose. Hopefully this one will learn the lesson.
Yep. So, the other news, this one's more in your wheelhouse, because I know how much you love them Jesuits. So
you know that meme, the meme of the Simpsons character, what's his name, Lenny, changing the number on the sign.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a days since accident or whatever type thing, and people always replace it with days since whatever. Though there's a popular one in Catholic circles, which is days since Jesuit tricks.
I see.
The Jesuits are generally these days, while there are a few Jesuits who are good priests. Generally speaking, the view of Jesuits is that they are malefactors to the church. They are not They are not interested in the advancement of the faith or the growth of the church at all.
Yeah. So they, in this case, they found a business opportunity with local woke in trouble for all kinds of reasons company Blizzard, and decided to let them paint a Baroque church with the Diablo monument, or with a big old Diablo mural on the ceiling. Now I don't know how
You know,
common this is.
you know how you get demons? That's how you get demons.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
literally painting images of them on the ceiling of your building is seems like a pretty good way to to send out a flyer. The devil might in fact be listening. So I just thought it was funny and dumb, and I don't have an attachment to the Catholic Church, but the Jesuits are funny to me. And although I don't know the specifics about them and all the things they've done, I know all of my people who are involved with the Catholic Church in some way do not like the Jesuits. And since Vaul's Catholic, I figured I'd throw this in here.
Well, the thing with the Jesuits is like there was a time where they were useful because they weren't always the way that they were now. They were basically, the sort of the dominant sort of society in the priesthood was the Dominicans once upon a time, and they're founded by Saint Dominic. They are they're more contemplative. They are very good for upholding the faith and not very good at spreading it. That's a really insulting oversimplification of the matter. But generally speaking, their role in the church has been theology a lot of the time. Like they uphold the pillars of the faith. But in the Counter-Reformation period, where the church had fractured off into a whole bunch of rebellious Protestant sects, and there was not really any clarity on how the Catholic Church should handle the situation. The Jesuits provided a sort of very agile solution to the problem, and the Jesuits were sort of like the very aggressive missionary force. Like the Jesuits were the ones that tried to convert Japan, for instance, in no small measure. And they spread the faith all over the world. There are lots and lots of countries that are now Christian that would never have been Christian without the Jesuits. But this basically resulted in the Jesuits becoming very wealthy, powerful, and influential. And you know, when that you become wealthy, powerful, and influential to the point where you can basically tell the Pope what to think, you are too powerful. Eventually, the Jesuits were suppressed, which means that the order officially was suspended from existence by one of the popes. But it was later decided that they had, you know, they had suffered enough punitive suppression and they could be allowed to reform, and they were allowed to reform. And well, it didn't really seem that they had reformed for the better, because now they are power mongers of the more modern kind. They are the sorts of priests you are likely to find in powwowing with people from the World Economic Forum and so on. They are the bulk of woke priests are Jesuits, and that's just the way it goes. All of the most scumbag priests who spreading the most heresy, the most rank heresy, they all somehow mysteriously are Jesuits. The infamous Father James Martin is a Jesuit, who's a famous American priest who is famous largely because he gets to go on all the TV shows because he's buddy with the liberals and who run the mainstream media, like very buddy because he supports all of the progressive agenda, like without shame.
I see.
He doesn't seem to think that you need to do silly things like adhering to doctrine, because it's more people will think you are nice if you just tell them they can do whatever they want. So, like, I don't understand where he's coming from, and it may be that he's coming from a position of sincerity and a desire to help people and so on. Like that's an entirely reasonable interpretation, but the actual actions that come out of it are generally terrible for the advancement of Christianity and the spiritual lives of those who follow it. He sets a bad example in every situation. So yeah, the Jesuits are bad juju, and they often do things like this because they see it as, well, they claim to see it as a form of evangelism. By, oh well, we're cool too, right, kids? We'll do all these things which are, disgraceful and blasphemous because then people will think that we aren't like those old fuddy-duddies. Yeah, but in the actual event of, not being an old fuddy-duddy, you just simply became a blasphemer instead. So is that really an improvement? You seriously believe that? So yeah, it's the Jesuit order is not bad because Jesuits are intrinsically bad by nature. It is bad because it is a power center in the church that attracts the worst kinds of sort of career clergymen. Because generally speaking, it is not the calling of a priest to build their career, but there are certain types of priests who see the clergy as sort of like, a corporate ladder to climb, and you find a lot of those people among the Jesuits. The head of the Jesuits is, basically an open heretic. Pope Francis is the most questionable pope in recent history, and is a Jesuit. Like wherever you find a priest who is really shabby theologically, if you scratch the surface, you'll find a Jesuit underneath.
I see.
Not every bad priest is a Jesuit, though, and not every Jesuit is a bad priest. There's just a really alarming overlap.
I see. I see. Righto. Well, we're out of the floor set now, and I got a whole bunch of fireworks.
Congratulations. Let's see. I have 3 sacks to crack.
Yay, fireworks. Alrighty, folks.
I got magic prism.
This
Starting of lights.
This show was kind of flat, but hopefully
we badly need Fern.
Yeah, we need Fern to have a third voice, because having a third voice available helps a lot. And
we started this show with 3 people and not 2 for a reason.
Yeah,
because 2 people just doesn't work as well.
Yeah, none of us are calibrated for the duo or solo show while doing something at the same time, especially. But also having Fern helps steer us on track and keep things organized and on time. And without Fern, we are both terrible at that while we're doing something at the same time. So, I think we're going to call it there, folks. Hopefully we have Fern back next week. Hopefully we got some news. Hopefully we can find some fun stuff to talk about and have a good time with it. And we will see. So, probably be doing more Deep Dungeon. I'll try and get a bit deeper into it so I can really talk about the bosses and the stuff y'all are probably actually interested in about the Deep Dungeon, because this week I kind of covered the basics of Deep Dungeons and what's specific about this Deep Dungeon. But which y'all are probably really interested in are, what are the bugbear enemies, what are the bosses, how do they all play out, what's that like? And I hopefully will have a little bit more for you next week, insight, and we will just have to wait and see. Next week is could go be a decent week, could be a nightmare of a week. It depends entirely on Monday.
Yeah, I think my week is going to be kind of a nightmare because I've got to train somebody in culture maintenance. I probably have to try and find time for a stock take. No, I can probably move the stock take to next week. Maybe I'll be able to keep things tamped down. We'll have to see. It all depends on how cooperative my suppliers are and whether they'll charge me 5 times the price of a product to ship it to me.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think we're going to call it there, folks. We will see y'all next week, hopefully with a more formal show. It's kind of being a filler show. And we'll get back in touch with you then and let you know what's going on.